Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the City Planning Commission public hearing. Before we begin, let me first wish all of my fellow commissioners and everybody here a very, very happy holiday, happy Hanukkah, which has already started, and Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year. And this is our last meeting of 2014. It's been a really productive year for all of us, and I really just want to thank particularly my colleagues here on the commission for making this year such a good year for me and a welcoming year for me. So I really want to thank you all for that. So
Thank you.
very happy holiday to all of you. And then before we get started, I just want to, on behalf of our Commissioner Larissa Ortiz, this is her new book. I want to be able to tout her new book. On improving tenant mix, particularly for commercial districts, and that's a big issue for all of our emerging neighborhoods, and Larissa's really an expert in this area. It's easy for me to tout this book because it's free. And, but it's always great when one of our commissioners really does something amazing, and at least in my world, publishing a book is pretty amazing. So not something I've ever done, and I'm incredibly in awe of it. So congratulations to you. So with that, Madam Secretary, please begin.
Good morning. This is the City Planning Commission public meeting held in Spector Hall, 22 Reade Street. Today is Wednesday, December 17, 2014. As a courtesy during the proceedings, we ask that you please turn off all cell phones and beepers. All speakers should fill out a speaker's card at the desk outside of Spector Hall. In addition, we ask that those providing testimony please identify yourself, limit your remarks to 3 minutes, and speak clearly into the microphone. I will now call the roll. Chairman Weisbrod.
Here.
Vice Chair Knuckles.
Here.
Commissioner Besser. Here. Commissioner Cantor. Commissioner Cerullo.
Here.
Commissioner Delaus.
Here.
Commissioner Dweck.
Here.
Commissioner Edie.
Here.
Commissioner Efron.
Here.
Commissioner Jung.
Here.
Commissioner Levin.
Here.
Commissioner Marin.
Here.
Commissioner Ortiz.
Here.
A quorum is present. The first item is the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of Wednesday, December 3rd, 2014.
On the minutes, may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? The minutes are approved.
Scheduling on calendar numbers 1 through 8, we have resolutions for adoption. Scheduling January 7, 2015, for a public hearing to be held in Spector Hall, 22 Reade Street.
On the resolutions, may we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Resolutions are approved.
The next part of the calendar is the report section on page 6. Borough of Manhattan, calendar numbers 9 and 10. Calendar number 9, CD4, C150101ZMM. Calendar number 10, N150102ZRM. In the matter of applications for amendments to the zoning map and the zoning resolution concerning the special West Chelsea District expansion. For a favorable report on calendar number 9, and for a favorable report as modified on calendar number 10. Chairman Weisbrod.
I just want to congratulate everyone who worked on this, particularly the staff in our Manhattan office. This work started before the beginnings of this administration, but I think it's something that was universally embraced by Community Board 4, by all the elected officials, and I really am very grateful and happy to vote aye on this.
Vice Chair Knuckles?
Yes.
Commissioner Besser?
Yes.
Commissioner Cerullo?
Yes.
Commissioner Delaus?
Yes.
Commissioner Dweck?
Yes.
Commissioner Edie?
Yes.
Commissioner Efron?
Yes.
Commissioner Jung?
Yes.
Commissioner Levin?
Yes.
Commissioner Marin?
Yes.
Commissioner Ortiz. A favorable report has been adopted on calendar number 9, and a favorable report as modified has been adopted on calendar number 10. Borough of Manhattan, calendar number 11, CD3 N150157. HKM, in the matter of a communication concerning the landmark designation of the First German Baptist Church on the adoption of calendar number 11 for referral to the City Council. Chairman Weisbrod,
Aye.
Vice Chair Knuckles.
Yes.
Commissioner Besser,
Yes.
Commissioner Cerullo,
Yes.
Commissioner Delauss,
Yes.
Commissioner Dweck,
Yes.
Commissioner Edie,
Yes.
Commissioner Efron,
Yes.
Commissioner Young, Commissioner Levin, Commissioner Marin, Commissioner Ortiz. Calendar number 11 has been adopted. Borough of Manhattan Calendar number 12, CD5, N150158, HKM, in the matter of a communication concerning the landmark designation of the Mills Hotel number 3, on the adoption of calendar number 12 for referral to the City Council. Chairman Weisbrod,
Yes.
Vice Chair Knuckles.
Yes.
Commissioner Besser,
Yes.
Commissioner Cerullo,
Yes.
Commissioner Delauss.
Yes.
Commissioner Dweck,
Yes.
Commissioner Edie.
Yes.
Commissioner Efron,
Yes.
Commissioner Young, Commissioner Levin, Commissioner Marin, Commissioner Ortiz. Calendar number 12 has been adopted. Borough of Staten Island, calendar number 13, CD3, N150139, RCR, in the matter of an application for the grant of a certification concerning 355 Bradford Avenue for adoption on calendar number 13. Chairman Weisbrod,
Yes.
Vice Chair Knuckles.
Yes.
Commissioner Besser.
Yes.
Commissioner Cerullo.
Yes.
Commissioner Delauss.
Yes.
Commissioner Dweck.
Yes.
Commissioner Edie.
Yes.
Commissioner Efron.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Levin. Commissioner Marin. Commissioner Ortiz. Calendar number 13 has been adopted. Borough of Staten Island, calendar number 14, CD3, N140230, RAR, in the matter of an application for the grant of an authorization concerning 4299 Highland Boulevard for adoption of calendar number 14. Chairman Weisbrod,
Yes.
Vice Chair Knuckles.
Yes.
Commissioner Besser.
Yes.
Commissioner Cerullo.
Yes.
Commissioner Delauss.
Yes.
Commissioner Dweck.
Yes.
Commissioner Edie.
Yes.
Commissioner Efron.
Yes.
Commissioner Young.
Yes.
Commissioner Levin. Commissioner Marin. Commissioner Ortiz. Calendar number 14 has been adopted. The next part of the calendar is the public hearing section on page 9. Borough of Manhattan, calendar number 15, CDs 2 and 4, N150156BDM. A public hearing in the matter of an application concerning the formation of the meat market, the meat packing area business improvement district.
Thank you, Madam Secretary, and we'll give you an
You're welcome.
opportunity to rest your voice. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Before we call our first witness, let me say, reiterate what I said at our review session on Monday, that prior to my appointment to this commission, I did represent the Meatpacking Improvement Association on this matter. I have no involvement with them, obviously, now, and so consequently, no conflict of interest, but in the spirit of full disclosure, just want to make it clear that I did represent them earlier.
And Chair, if I may, I also represented the MPIA in a review of their district plan as well, but no longer have any engagement with them.
Thank you. With that, I call as the first speaker, Paul Pariser.
Thank you, Commissioners. I'm Paul Pariser, co-CEO of Taconic Investment Partners. I'm Chair of the Meatpacking Area Bid Steering Committee, President of the Meatpacking Improvement Association, and a founding board member of Chelsea Improvement Company. And while I usually go contemporaneous in my speaking, I was told to stay to a script, so I'll apologize for using this as a reference. Taconic Investment Partners has owned and developed properties in the meatpacking district since the mid-1990s. We have developed and restored notable properties such as the 401 West 14th Street, which is now the Apple Building, 837 Washington, which is now the Samsung Building, and was the developer of the Port Authority Building, 111 8th Avenue, converting it into one of the largest economic drivers in the area before selling it to Google. It's important to note that Google supports this bid enthusiastically, although they're not here. We, as the managing agent of 111 8th Avenue, say on behalf of Google that it's as excited about this endeavor as we all are. As a property owner and real estate developer, when we see the need, we see needs in the community that need attention in the public realm, it's important to try to address it. and that does not stop at our property lines. With all the development and stewardship of the meatpacking district, it has been critical to maintain a healthy appreciation for and to honor the historical context of this landmarking, unique neighborhood. In 2007, I was part of a small group that created the Chelsea Improvement Company to address capital needs and operational needs north of 14th Street, the few blocks around the Chelsea Market and 111 8th Avenue. Since inception, CIC has installed over $4 million of capital improvements in the form of street furniture, custom pedestrian lighting, and instituted supplemental bid-like services for the area, including sanitation, beautification, and public safety. In 2008, New York City DOT created several public plazas, but with the plaza program not yet built out, those plazas south of 14th Street quickly fell into disrepair. In 2009, a call to action was again felt for those areas below 14th Street where bid-like services were needed, and a management entity with funding could act to maintain those public spaces. Already existing was the Meatpacking District Initiative, MPDI, an organization that was acting as a merchants association, and a small group of active property owners saw the public space faltering, saw a greater need for bid-like services, including sanitation and beautification, and approached the MPDI, and agreed to harness the good work of that organization, build upon it, and out of that came the Meatpacking District Improvement Association, MPIA, that was born in 2010. As we look to the future, there's tremendous amount of development coming down the pike for this area, broadly known as the Meatpacking District. The Whitney will open its doors this spring and bring an estimated 1 million more visitors from home and abroad to this already busy area. Piers 54 and 57 are in the process of development, ostensibly a cultural hub and a commercial destination. Hundreds of thousands of commercial square feet will come online in the next few years, further cementing this area as a global destination with a robust day life and nightlife, a 24-hour epicenter of activity. I'll just finish by saying the management of this dynamic neighborhood is key to success and will benefit all stakeholders. The primary reason behind the creation of this bid is that donations are just not the way to go, so the services can be provided. Each year, it's a question of how much we can do, what services and what programs we can provide, and to what degree we can do that within a limited budget. The creation of this bid will eliminate the question mark for annual dollars to fund the range of services for this highly trafficked and highly profiled area.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Pariser. What questions for Mr. Pariser? Mr. Cirillo.
Mr. Pariser, thank you so much for your testimony. Obviously, the Meatpacking District is one of the more exciting neighborhoods in our city, and I think one of the best examples of how a neighborhood can transform itself, just from what I remember as a young child and going to the old homestead with my family and all of us kids crying because there was blood in the street, that my father had to lift us over to get to the restaurant. And now, of course, you know, there are 7-inch high heel shoes making its way down the street, and it's a party every night. But at the same time, it has a very interesting and unique and beautiful surrounding community, which I know you've recognized in the Memorandum of Understanding that you executed along with the community board. So I raise that issue because I think it's important to note the recognition that you have all given to not only the district that will have the services provided to it through this process if completed successfully, but also the surrounding neighborhood of both residents and other businesses that may not be carved into the district per se. The interesting thing for me is when I look at some of the recommendations that have been made by the community boards and even the borough president's office, and I say this as somebody who runs a bid myself in my day job at Grand Central, the role and relationship between the bid and the community board or community boards, I also have 2, 5, and 6, really helps to establish the potential and success of the bid. It's a very important relationship. And I think that's reflected in the MOU, but there are some of the recommendations that actually tie into the MOU already. I just wondered what your take was on some of them. I on Monday, at our pre-hearing review on this, referenced the fact that I was concerned for the organization in the long term that some of the recommendations were really governance issues and should be played out in the process through the interim board and the steering committee and all of the players that obviously are recognized as being important through the MOU. So I guess part of this is a question, which is, do you have any concerns about any of the things that have been outlined that we should be aware of? And two, if you could affirm that it is the intention of the organization to include the elected officials and the community boards and the zones, the impact zone representatives in this process, so that there can be a comfort level for us that all of the players that are important to the success of this will be at the table at some point discussing all of these issues.
That was the longest question ever asked.
But I actually,
Well,
when I
2014.
came down, I actually haven't stopped speaking since Monday. That's
Well, first of all, I thank you for your comments on the bid and your experience. It's been a wonderful process for us. We've worked with both community boards extensively for an extended period of time because we believe, as well, that all of us are in one giant soup together, and we have to work cooperatively. So I think it absolutely reflects the intent, which is to be inclusive, board representation, subcommittee representation. Everything that's stated in the MOU was born out of heartfelt discussion, communication, negotiation with both number 4 and number 2 and various constituents, and it took a long time. So I think it was cooked slowly, it was cooked well, and I'm sure there'll be other commentary from members of the community here. But yes, we understand first of all, I thank you for all that positive commentary, and we're excited by the process. We understand it's a collective, cooperative process as we move forward.
Good. It's good to hear, and it's good to have that on the record. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Other questions, Mr. Pariser? Ms. Efron?
Thank you for coming and for all of your hard work and for also turning the orientation of 111 8th Avenue, not just to 8th Avenue, but also to 9th Avenue, which I think was an important precondition for what has become a really vibrant neighborhood. Can you tell us a little bit about how the work done to date with your 2 different nonprofits has spurned economic development for those in Fulton houses and other lower income residents with the growing businesses in the neighborhood, and how you might work through the bid to expand the benefits of the entire district just north of Chelsea Market, since it is part of the district?
Well, I promised Lauren that I wouldn't be so on the spot and let her answer these questions, but I'll give you first of all, CIC, Chelsea Improvement Company, always had a very good working relationship with the Fulton houses. Our district runs up into 17th and 10th and across 17th to 9th, and that's part of the Fulton houses. So all those streets are taken care of, they're lit. Our security, our thoughts on cleanliness also is inclusive to that district. So, they are a great neighbor. We're not including all of it because we're not going up 5 blocks or south 5 blocks. We're going up just through these blocks, but all those blocks are taken care of. That's your.
I really meant employment opportunities, if there's any way in which you're connecting either the services of the future bid or the current.
Can I defer that for
Sure,
for
absolutely.
Lauren?
And you don't need to
because I
answer it
think
if others are. That's
Well, no,
fine.
it'll be interesting to note how we handle some of our special services and who does them, and I think that'll answer some of the questions.
Thank you.
She's better equipped with this.
Ms. Levin?
What will happen to the Chelsea Improvement Company and the Meatpacking District Improvement Association after the creation of the bid? Will they be folded into the bid, or will they continue to have separate lives?
Well, let's go past this year, assuming we get there this year. Other than the fold-up issues of closing down accounts, CIC goes away and just becomes part of the bid. A majority of what's MPIA goes away. The only part that will stay alive is the fact that MPIA also serves as I'll call it a merchants association for businesses, providing publicity and roadmaps and things that are for the benefit of tenants, which extend beyond just the meatpacking district, as we call it. They extend into a greater area, so there'd be a minor function of that. But all of the services that are provided to it within the district, the plaza maintenance, all that will fold in. Now, our contracts they last a year or two. I forget, Lauren will have the detail, so we'll have to play those out. But our commitment is to fold them in to run one organization. We're not looking for multiple organizations.
Good. Thank you.
Any other questions, Mr. Pariser?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good holiday.
Thank you.
And now the next speaker is the aforementioned Lauren Danziger, who will answer all questions that were deferred, among other things. Ms. Danziger.
Good morning. Thank you all for hearing our plight today. I'm really excited to be here, and I'm excited at the opportunity to discuss the creation of the meatpacking area bid. I'm Lauren Danziger, as both Paul and Carl just said. I am the commissioner just said. I am the executive director of both the Meatpacking District Improvement Association and the Chelsea Improvement Company. Running these organizations on a day-to-day level, I've been able to see firsthand the good work that organizations like these can do, the change they can affect, and the benefits to the community. We've been working on the creation of the bid for 2 years in conjunction with lots of constituents and partners, small business services, local elected officials, community boards 2 and 4, the local property owners and businesses that the proposed bid would serve, residents from the area as well. All of these groups agree on the fact that the greater meatpacking area is not only a global destination, but one of historic importance. It's become clear, though, that the rate at which the area is changing and evolving and the amount of visitation we expect in the coming years will far exceed the capacity of MPIA and CIC to fundraise and to do the work that the area will require. The proposed bid is generally bounded by Horatio Street to the south, 17th Street to the north, 10th, 11th Avenue to the west, and 8th Avenue to the east. It is zoned M15 and predominantly commercial in nature, with residential buildings primarily being located around the edges. A significant amount of the square footage of the proposed bid, it's important to note, does fall in the Gansevoort Market Historic District. We're both well aware of that and really proud of that as well. The 25-person steering committee we created proposes a year one budget of $1.6 million and identified services to add and to expand, including sanitation, beautification, public safety and traffic mitigation, along with capital maintenance and economic development activities, as well as administrative expenses, cost of running an organization. To fund this budget, we proposed 22 cents a square foot. On commercial square footage alone, residential property owners would be assessed the $1 a year. We surveyed the community to determine what the public perception was of the district needs. To spread the word about the proposed bid, we created a website, meatpackingbid.org. We're on that website, and to this day, we post real-time information, district plan updates, the MOU that's been mentioned. We've held 6 public meetings, 2 meetings specific to the business community, included information in 4+ community board newsletters, 8 MPIA newsletters, produced 3 mass mailings to over 3,500 addresses, took out both digital and print advertisements in local papers, and visited every ground floor business at least twice.
Couple more sentences,
Sure.
Ms. Danziger, and then
The
questions.
most important thing I want to say is that input from the community within the boundaries and outside has been critical to the success of the plan that we are presenting. Without that, this plan would not be as fair and as supported as it is today. It was critical to work with the surrounding residents, the residents within the boundaries, and the community boards. The MOU and the vision statement are evidence of that. The MOU represents a year of input, and the vision statement really, which was a request from the community, really helped all of us focus on what the goals, the true goals, and the mission of the organization will be.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Questions for Ms. Danziger? Mr. Knuckles.
Good morning. I don't wish to micromanage your budget, but I'm just curious, given the success in the meatpacking district, you have $200,000 for economic development activity. I'm just curious as to what that is, given all of the economic development that's happening in the meatpacking district.
Fair enough. That encompasses a lot of things. Seminars for the business community, which we run currently and would love to expand. A good example of how some of that money would be used would be, we have a massive public works project coming in where 9th Avenue is going to be ripped up from Gansevoort Street to 16th Street, which is essentially our main boulevard. It will go on for 3 years. A lot of that money would flow into programs to address that for the community. This process has been illuminating in how it affects not just the businesses, but the residents. So creation of a hotline, manning that hotline, meetings, whether they're, we haven't determined how that will be managed, but a true strategic plan and executing that, so that, because that number also includes advocacy, and that's something like this program that I'm working on now. Marketing collateral, we produce a map and a website that helps people navigate the neighborhood. So that's the type of activities that would go into that number.
Thank you.
Ms. Levin.
Yes, Ms. Danziger, I guess both the community boards and the borough president, the core of their conditions here really go to the question of ongoing commitment to the MOU, which reflects to me a little sensitivity that might not happen. I mean, it's an MOU, it's signed by everyone, it seems to me like it's something that's been carefully worked out, got some legs. Is there any doubt that it will be implemented and adhered to as you work to organize the board? And is there any doubt that there will be proportional representation of residents and commercial folks, as is normally the case with the bid?
Sure. So your first question, to address the MOU and its legs and its validity, there's every intention to incorporate that into the governance structure of the organization. I really mean it when I say that we have a much stronger plan now that it is fully incorporates the community's input. We've personally made a commitment that the impact area advisory zone, which I didn't get to explain in my remarks, and I will now. The MOU was created to address the real concerns of the residential community, not just in the boundaries, but surrounding the neighborhood. It isn't lost on the property owners and the businesses that the activities of the commercial hub impact the neighboring robust residential community. And so the MOU came out of those discussions. What they do is create an impact area advisory council, which takes into account representation and input from residents who do not live in the bid boundaries. It's precedent setting, to my understanding, for the bid world. It goes up to 18th Street in the north and 12th Street in the south. The intention is that they will govern themselves. There is commitment via the MOU that the executive director of the bid would meet with them quarterly prior to the bid meetings, the board meetings, so that their concerns could be actively discussed and agenda'd for those meetings. And most importantly, in my most recent conversations with the people who have spearheaded the creation of the IAAC, is that they'll be involved in the creation of the governance. So now that there's been this commitment via the MOU, the intention is the interim board will include representatives from that, so that their voice will be heard and help to spearhead the governance. I think it's a wonderful thing. So that's your first question.
Yes.
Your second one
it's real.
was, it's very real. Your
Okay.
second one, sorry.
Proportional representation
Sure.
of, there were several comments emphasizing the importance of proportional representation of residents and commercial tenants on the bid board. The district plan isn't yet precise about how that will be implemented. Are you able to provide any more details about composition of the bid board?
It's my
Just
understanding.
in terms of numbers. I mean, the categories are there, but
Yes.
not.
It's governed by statute, is my understanding. So it will always be a majority of property owners, and it doesn't specify commercial or residential as statute. I will say that the 85% of the district is commercial. So per the statute, representation will match those percentages. And there will be opportunity for residents to be voted, onto the board, and IAAC members to be voted onto the board. So, yes.
Thank you.
Ms. Efron?
Hi, thank you. I wanted to give you a chance to address my question to Mr. Pariser, but also be more specific, which is there's a wonderful history since economic development in earnest started in that neighborhood of companies, particularly tenants early on in Chelsea Market, doing ad hoc employment programs, summer youth employment with residents of the Fulton houses. Is there any tradition of your organization or plans for the future organization to take it from something that's ad hoc and make it something that's more formal and robust so that everyone can benefit from the employment opportunities and strength of that particular group of businesses?
Sure. I think it's a wonderful question. In light of the fact that I met with the residents committee of Fulton Houses last night, it hits home. I actually am not as fully aware of the programs you're referring to. They're intriguing to me. We have plenty of opportunity in the district, from a business perspective, but also through us. There was a few gentlemen last night who approached me and said, we're retired, how can we be involved? Which got that sort of thought process going. There is nothing written out right now that addresses that head on. However, there are conversations happening. We have a great relationship with Miguel over at the Fulton Houses. There's open communication. Our intention is to make this be as inclusive as possible and as representative of the community. So I'd like to explore what you're asking, but there's nothing currently set in stone. However, with representation, I know Miguel expressed that he might run to sit on the board, and I think that'll build their involvement.
I'll just point out that you have opportunities both as an employer or a contractor of services that I imagine the bid would have for security and cleaning, but also as a conduit between the business community and the residential community, and I would strongly encourage it.
Yeah, and to your point, I think that the process that we've gone through has shown that there's work to be done in terms of that, and that's what we're doing in terms of being much more of a community than just MPIA and CIC necessarily have been perceived to be.
Thank you.
Other questions for Ms. Danziger? Ms. Ortiz?
Hi, good morning. I want to commend the team on the innovation of the impact area. My understanding is also that this is precedent setting, and I think it's very exciting and an interesting opportunity for other organizations to engage residents. In looking at the MOU, and perhaps this is a bit picayune, but there's a description of business improvement districts as mechanisms which collect special assessments on commercial properties. You are collecting assessments from residential properties, although it is $1, correct? So I believe in the MOU, then that description would need to be amended to reflect the fact that the assessment is a mixture of commercial and residential properties. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions for Ms. Danziger? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
The next speaker is Elaine Young.
Hi, my name is Elaine Young. Let me tell you who I am. I'm a local resident of the Meatpacking District. I live on Jane Street. I'm also a 9-year member of Community Board 2. And I would characterize myself, I'm representing myself, I'm not representing the community board. The local neighborhood, the West Village where I live, does not have a formal organization, although we're working on it, a multi-block organization. So I'm representing my own opinions, but I'm sure they're indicative of a lot of people's opinions in my neighborhood. One of the first thing, I met Paul, I didn't meet him, I encountered him at a meeting, a Community Board 2 meeting in 2009. He mentioned it where they were discussing Gansevoort Plaza that had fallen into disrepair. And he made a very insightful comment. He said, for anyone who's out at 1 a.m. in the morning at one of our plazas, and I think he was referring to young people, let's say young people between the ages of 20 and 30, he says they're up to no good. And that's in a nutshell what is characterized for the residents, what has happened to our neighborhood. We've become the superhighway through which cars and trucks up to 4 or 5 a.m. in the morning get to the meatpacking district. And for about 5 years, we have really struggled mightily with this problem, working with DOT, working with the SLA, the State Liquor Authority, trying to control licensees, trying to just deal with all of the multifaceted aspects of an area that's out of control early in the AM. And by the way, this completely took the area, it's really a quiet landmark residential village area. It completely took the neighborhood, let's call the neighborhood the West Village, by surprise. And over the years, we've just been watching it, well, as we say to each other, turn into a quote-unquote shit show. And what I mean by that is kids, and I mean kids, often from New Jersey, operating in the neighborhood after 4 a.m. when they get out of the lounges and the clubs, they're coming to our streets, our once quiet streets, and yelling, screaming, fighting, vomiting, doing all kinds of very unpleasant things. So I want to congratulate you on your insightful comment. But this is in a nutshell why so many people in our community were looking forward to the bid, because we felt it's kind of a quasi-governmental kind of organization. That's the way we saw it. And we would love to ally with them in order to tackle these mutual problems. I know the people in the bid, Lauren and Paul, don't like what's going on in the neighborhood. I can't promise what they'll do. I have no idea what they'll do. But it's better if we're with them rather than we're not with them. So I'm very grateful for the impact zone or the impact area. And we're working on putting together by the way, I'm merely talking about the South Community Board 2 aspect of the impact area committee. We're working on putting together a committee to interact and be on the bid board. And by the way, we will get 2 seats, or the North and South will get 2 seats on the bid board, non-voting. But I just want to say I'm basically in favor of the bid. I think a lot of my neighbors are. We are looking forward to an alliance with the bid and hoping that going forward, we'll make some good progress together on the neighborhood's problems.
Thank you very much. Ms. Young, questions, Ms. Young? Thank you very much.
Okay.
Betty McIntosh?
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Betty McIntosh. I'm a member of Community Board 4, co-chair of the Chelsea Land Use Committee, and I also have been a member of the Bid Steering Committee. Community Board 4 strongly supports the creation of the meatpacking area bid. We voted unanimously in favor at our December 3rd board meeting. As you probably know, the bid area is bisected by West 14th Street, the boundary between Community Districts 4 and 2. We recognize the need for additional services in the meatpacking area as commercial uses have increased and the popularity of the area has grown. In addition to the Whitney Museum, and eventually the development of Piers 54 and 57, there'll be more visitors to the area. We are pleased that there is a memorandum of understanding. It's signed by our City Council member Corey Johnson, the chairs of Board 2 and 4, and the Bid Steering Committee. As you've heard, the MOU creates a mechanism for residents just outside the bid boundaries to raise quality of life issues with the Bid Board of Directors. The 2 impact areas will provide representatives to an advisory committee who will participate with the Bid Board of Directors in a non-voting capacity and join bid subcommittees on traffic, public safety, and sanitation. The MOU is an important companion piece to the bid district plan. And actually, I've just been meeting recently with our counterparts in Board 2, including Elaine, on making our planning steering committee for the advisory committee, and then we will outreach and get more members for that committee. Community and And we are, in Board 4, committed to having 1 or 2 people from Fulton Houses be part of the advisory committee. Community Board 4 looks forward to the bid, providing services in addition to city services to promote a vibrant, diverse business district, while at the same time addressing the needs of nearby residents for peaceful evenings and a safe, attractive, clean pedestrian environment. We urge you to vote for this bid. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McIntosh. Questions, Ms. McIntosh? Ms. Delausse?
I don't have as much of a question as I just wanted to say to both Ms. McIntosh and Ms. Young, thank you both for being here and for the participation that you've had thus far in this process and for the work that that you'll be doing moving forward to make it successful. So thank you.
Any other questions for Ms. McIntosh? Thank you very much. Mazda Cassie? Or is that Cassie or Rassi? Cassie?
Good morning. My name is Mazda Rossi, and I'm co-founder and creative director of Milk Studios. I am speaking on behalf of Milk Studios located on 15th Street between 9th and 10th Avenues in support of the effort to establish a business improvement district for the meatpacking. Milk Studios is a company that stands at the forefront and is a crossroads of fashion, music, photography, and the film world. We are a media company that's located in the heart of the meatpacking district. We've been there since '96. We chose to locate our headquarters in this area in large part because of the unique character of the neighborhood and the deep history that you can feel as you walk through the streets and the vibrant culture of design that permeates in the area. The neighborhood itself is a great asset to our company, and we believe in being an active member of the community, intent on proactively stewarding it and ensuring its ongoing vitality. Towards this goal, we have been involved as a member of the Meatpacking District Improvement Association and areas engaged members of the community in supporting the MPIA's work to keep the neighborhood clean and beautiful. As a creative company, we are thrilled that the Whitney Museum will be joining our community this coming spring in 2015, but also recognize the strain that more visitation will bring to the area. The MPIA has had beneficial impact in the neighborhood, but its operations are limited, and it will struggle to keep up with more demands. Milk recognizes the need for enhanced services of the neighborhood, especially a public safety program that will enforce traffic regulation, make it noise, and other safety issues. I've been involved in the bid steering committee for over a year now, and also was a longtime local resident up to a year ago. I lived for 8 years on Horatio Street. And on behalf of Milk Studios and our 180 employees, I strongly support propose the Meatpacking Area Business Improvement District and the services it will provide to solve issues that face our neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Rossi. Mr. Rossi, questions? Thank you. Next speaker is Jim Martin.
Good morning, Commissioners, and happy holidays. I'm here speaking, my name is Jim Martin. I'm the Executive Director of the Association of Community Employment Programs for the Homeless, nonprofit located in Lower Manhattan. I'm here today speaking on behalf of ACE ACE programs in support of the effort to establish a business improvement district for the meatpacking. ACE is a social service organization that rehabilitates and provides vocational services to formerly homeless men and women from all over New York City. We also provide employment opportunities as sanitation workers to our participants. ACE was hired by the MPIA in 2011 to provide supplementary sanitation to the plaza spaces, sidewalks, and gutters in the meatpacking district. At that time, the district was in desperate need of our services. There was graffiti, stickers, litter, cigarette butts littering the plazas and surrounding areas. Trash cans were frequently overflowing. Spills and refuse in the gutters went unaddressed. Since that time, we began work in the district. I can attest to the great progress that has been made. 2014, We expanded services to cover the area managed as the Chelsea Improvement Company, and together in partnership with the MPIA, we have made great strides in that area as well. However, such as we are now, we are only just barely keeping up with the pressure on the district. Every time our men and women, our workers, clean up an area, a mess, or empty a can, they turn around and find another issue cropping up. As the district has become increasingly an area consistent visitation, and with more employees coming with new office construction, in addition to the imminent opening of the Whitney, we know that additional foot traffic will mean even greater strains on our resources. ACE works extremely hard in the meatpacking district, but we could be doing even more. We are limited by available funding and, as a result, the size of our crews and staffing. In order to keep up with the changes coming to the district, it will be imperative that sanitation services be enhanced and expanded. The proposed meatpacking bid will enable the expansion of services to meet the demand of the neighborhood and the changes to come. I strongly and proudly support the plan for the proposed meatpacking area business improvement district. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Questions? Thank you. Oh, questions? Pardon me. Ms. Levin.
Just out of curiosity, it's nice to hear your presentation. I think the last time we heard from ACE, and I don't know if you were the speaker, was when the Soho Business Improvement District was before us, and I think it was a moment of transition for the organization and certainly a moment of transition for that neighborhood, but glad to see you're still around and doing this important work.
We are just, we did. I did testify at that time, and ACE is working on the Soho Business Improvement District now. But it's these types of opportunities that afford low-income and recovering homeless men and women jobs and opportunities. And the MPIA has been an outstanding partner in providing the support necessary to transition folks from public assistance to full-time employment.
Good. So that actually gets to my question. Which is how big a crew do you have in the area now, and how much bigger do you expect it will be with this funding? And then also, you give us some idea of, what happens with your crew members? Do people tend to work for a certain period of time and then go on and find other employment, or is it a crew that stays in place for a long time? What are the employment prospects, the ongoing employment prospects for
Sure.
your members?
So to your first question, without seeing a bid budget for sanitation, I have not seen that. And the process as this works is, should the meatpacking become a business improvement district, as you know, it would go to, it would go out, it would be RFP'd, and several providers would submit, a proposal, and what we would see is, the appropriate coverage for the area. Our current staffing levels, we have at any given time 2 to 3 men covering the entire district, which is a massive district. I could see, increasing it by 50 to 75%. And again, that's based upon what the budget looks like. What I can attest to is the amazing increase in foot traffic, even since we began services several years ago. When the museum opens, I can't imagine what it would be like there. The high-end destinations, the sheer attraction of the neighborhood draws people to it. And you're talking about not only basic, supplemental sanitation services, you're also talking about doing things like sidewalk cleaning, snow removal, graffiti removal, things that impact both the cleanliness in the district, but the safety of the district, especially when you're talking about snow removal. And last winter, we were faced with an incredible challenge of keeping crosswalks clean and safe for folks that are coming down to that district, rain or shine. So I think that the bid would afford the community, the businesses, and the residents a safer, cleaner district with the expanded amount of funding. To your second question, which I'm recalling.
How longevity of your crew members?
Oh,
what
sure.
happens to them after they work for you?
The MPIA is, what they've done with us is help nurture the men and women that staff that district. And first and foremost, what they've done is given them, raises for great performance, and that keeps the same men and women we staff now. I would believe about 75% are still there today, and that's a long time in this type of work, and that's due to not only their coaching, their support, their financial investment in these men and women's lives has been remarkable. And it allows us to be able to continue to do the work we do and the services we provide to low-income New Yorkers who are in need of an opportunity. We, Lauren and the MPIA, like consistency in staffing, It means it relates to better services on the street. It allows the guys that are on the street to get to know the needs of the district and the needs of the businesses and residents and become a part of that district. And that's been our goal from the beginning. And you know, as someone who's a social worker by trade, it's been a remarkable relationship there, compassion and willingness to support the men and women that we serve and who are New Yorkers who needed a second chance. And this initial partnership has afforded them that.
Thank you.
Ms. Efron.
Commissioner Levin asked the questions I was hoping to have the answers to, but I just am happy to have the opportunity to congratulate you on making a real difference and having a few New Yorkers benefit and also help a district grow. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions for Ms. Whoop? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Martin. Paul Kelterborn?
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Paul Kelterborn, and I am speaking on behalf of Jamestown in support of the effort to establish a bid to serve the meatpacking district. Jamestown owns several properties in the proposed bid area, including Chelsea Market. As a large property owner and manager of buildings that house thousands of employees and draw high volumes of visitors, Jamestown is committed to supporting our local community. Jamestown is a contributing member of the Chelsea Improvement Company, a private bid-like organization that provides supplementary sanitation and landscaping services, invests in capital improvements, and runs a small public safety program a few nights each week. We are also contributing members of the MPIA, supporting both their services in the public realm, but also the work they do to support the business community. As the district evolves, we support the plan to add and enhance services to this area through the creation of a bid. The proposed plan will help address the holistic needs of this community and further unify and streamline the services being provided by MPIA and CIC. Jamestown has participated on the bid steering committee for the past year and strongly supports this proposal for a meatpacking area bid. Thank you for hearing my testimony.
Thank you very much. Questions? Ms. Efron.
Hi. Have you asked your tenants, who presumably would bear the cost of the additional services, how they feel about the creation of a bid?
I'm not fully informed about that outreach, but I mean, I don't know if I can defer the question to Lauren. No.
No? Okay.
So maybe.
We'll get the answer.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions, Mr. Kelterborn? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Jared Epstein.
Most of the leases are triple net.
Good morning, everyone.
There it matters because they're.
I am speaking on behalf of Aurora Capital Associates in support of the effort to establish a business improvement district for the meatpacking district. Aurora began investing in the neighborhood approximately 5 years ago and now owns an interest in more than a dozen properties throughout the district. Our partners, William Gottlieb Real Estate, are the majority holders and have been investing in the community for nearly 40 years. I have served on the board of the Meatpacking District Improvement Association, which is the Neighborhoods Business Alliance since its inception, and take great pride in Aurora's commitment to supporting MPIA's efforts to keep the neighborhood clean, safe, and beautiful. We've seen a lot of change in recent years, and the MPIA has worked diligently to maintain the district's character, charm, and cleanliness. We put a sanitation team, ACE, on the street. We've installed plantings to beautify the sidewalks and plazas. We've purchased outdoor furniture for the public to use, and we've implemented campaigns to support local businesses. We are proud of the progress we've made, but we also know that big change is coming to the district. With the opening of the Whitney Museum, the continued popularity of the High Line, and new commercial buildings rising all over the district, the number of employees and visitors to the district will continue to rise. If we're going to uphold our responsibility to keep the neighborhood clean, safe, and beautiful, we need a stable funding stream and the resources that a bid will provide. I have participated on the bid steering committee for over a year and support this plan to form a bid. Thank you for hearing my testimony this morning.
Thank you, Mr. Epstein. Questions? Thank you very much.
Okay.
Jeff Levine?
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Jeff Levine. I'm the Chief Marketing and Communications Officer for the Whitney Museum of American Art. On May 1st, 2015, the Whitney will open its striking new building on the corner of Gansevoort and Washington Streets at the southern base of the High Line. The Whitney is excited to return to its downtown roots and to join the historic and vibrant meatpacking district. Over the past several years, we have worked productively with the Meatpacking District Improvement Association as a steering committee member to coordinate with the local business community throughout the construction process. The museum recognizes that the addition of a major cultural institution to this neighborhood will bring higher visitation, pedestrian and vehicular traffic, and result in higher usage of public spaces, sidewalks, streets, and sanitation needs. A bid would be an effective vehicle to address these issues. The Whitney strongly supports the creation of the meatpacking area bid and anticipates supporting the bid's efforts to keep the neighborhood safe, clean, and beautiful. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Levine. Questions, Mr. Levine, Ms. Ortiz?
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
As I understand it, the Whitney Museum is a nonprofit and therefore is not required to contribute to the activities of the Business Improvement District? Is that
Financially?
Yes.
I'm not sure how that will change with the bid process.
Okay. Well, nonprofits are
I believe you're
exempt.
correct, though, yes.
I wondered if there's any consideration, given the impact of the Whitney's activities on the bid and the visitation, as you mentioned, is going to really change the district, if there's any consideration of some sort of payment in lieu of taxes or pilot.
I can't speak with specifics yet, but we have been in discussion with Lauren Danziger about the way the Whitney can be involved financially.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions, Ms. Levine? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Jonathan Iger?
Comfort station. I mean, that's what they should do.
Okay. Lucian Reynolds from the Borough President's Office.
We could tell them to.
Good morning, Chair Weisbrod, Commissioners. My name is Lucian Reynolds. I'm here to speak on behalf of Manhattan Borough President Gail Brewer regarding the application to establish a business improvement district in an area that is commonly referred to as the Meatpacking District. Early in the planning stages of the proposed bid, Community Boards 2 and 4 raised concerns about the proposed boundaries of the bid, which includes portions of the Meatpacking District in Chelsea that bordered on lower-density residential neighborhoods. As a result of the concerns, Councilmember Corey Johnson, the Meatpacking Bid Steering Committee, and representatives from Community Boards 2 and 4 signed a memorandum of understanding that created opportunities for those living in adjacent residential areas to give their input. The bid's northern border takes in a portion of the Fulton houses, which is a development of the New York City Housing Authority's portfolio. 4 of the Fulton houses' residential buildings are inside of the proposed bid's catchment area. 3 additional buildings of Fulton fall within the northern impact area that is defined in the MOU. Should the bid become responsible for providing any level of security within its catchment area, the DMA and any affiliate organizations will also need oversight over its efforts to provide such security. There is no language in the proposed district plan or the MOU that establishes a protocol for reporting on security efforts to any organization outside of itself or any strategic partners or affiliates. It is important that any entity managing the bid be inclusive of the various stakeholders and consider the impacts of the bid operations on all affected communities. Before approval of the district plan, the Meatpacking District Improvement Association and Steering Committee should clarify how the 2 organizations will relate to each other moving forward and how the MPIA envisions its role in the neighborhood in the future. Therefore, the Manhattan Borough President recommends conditional approval of ULURP application number N150156 BDM to establish a bid in the Meatpacking District on the conditions that, 1, the MOU is fully incorporated into the bid bylaws and any related element of the district plan. 2, that the interim board include fair and proportional representation of all membership classes and its voting members, specifically residential and commercial tenants, and representation from the Fulton houses. 3, that the interim board include in the bid bylaws that the bid report regularly to public safety-related committees of Community Boards 2 and 4 on the security-related activities of the bid. 4, that the relationship between the proposed bid and the existing MPIA be made more clear and explicit. And 5, that the administration of the bid be conducted with the same emphasis on inclusion of the various stakeholders and consideration for all impacted communities as we hope to see reflected in the bid's board of directors. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Reynolds. Questions, Mr. Reynolds? Ms. Ortiz?
Hi, good morning. I have a few questions. You mentioned with respect to some of your recommendations, one, that there be a mechanism for reporting back on security. I hate to create a situation where there's sort of a redundant mechanism to do that. And as, by statute, the community board has a non-voting seat, and the borough president and all elected officials, they all have non-voting seats on the board, which would allow them multiple opportunities to hear and receive feedback and request feedback on security issues. So I wanted to get your take on why this was requested, and I would hate to set a precedent that we have to add these administrative burdens to organizations that are already meeting those requirements in some way.
So the district plan included a section describing potential security benefits that would be brought with the business improvement district, one being unarmed security personnel and the other being surveillance. So if there were any issues for any people, if there were any encounter security personnel or any questions regarding who was watching security cameras, and just generally when we add an additional layer of observation and people want to know what's going on, they should be able to go to their community board and be able to voice their concerns. It's a place where community members know to bring any issues or questions that they have, and if they know that there's a meeting that will be once every quarter, then they could go and ask directly and understand what the actions that are taking place entail, who's involved, because just because people see a security guard, they might not know that they are involved with the bid, or if they see a surveillance camera, they might not know who is associated with.
Just in, just in further of Ms. Ortiz's question, is the community boards are already represented on the bid board, so isn't the community board well aware of the activities of the bid?
The community board will be aware, but the community at large may not be aware. And the community board serves as a tool for the community to be able to attend committee meetings and understand what's going on, or to raise grievances that may not be covered in a board meeting.
If
Ms.
I
Ortiz.
may, on that note, this mechanism is set up so that a representative of the community board can hear, ask questions, receive feedback, and then report back to the community board. That is their role. They are the representative of the community board. So there's an opportunity for a community board member and for the community board to hear this. It's not suggesting that there's no opportunity to do what you said, which I think is important. Just that this particular recommendation is somewhat redundant. I mean, why wouldn't you do this for every single issue that comes before the bid? There's a reason you don't, because this mechanism is set up for representation on the board, and those representatives are then empowered to go back to their organizations and provide feedback. That's just a comment. I don't understand it, frankly.
It's a way for issues to filter up to the community board. So when the representative would have something to take to the board meeting, as opposed to being unclear for the community at large how they would address grievances directly with the organizations providing the security or the surveillance.
Mr. Cirillo.
I would just add, just from a practical point of, in practice, one of the things that's I guess unclear, which is a challenge, is that we don't know what the board and the management will determine as the reporting mechanisms for a variety of operations. I mean, there are, as you well know, as the borough president sits on all of the bid boards, there are reporting mechanisms between the management of a bid and the stakeholders, including the community boards, whether it's just on public safety or it's on, sanitation, cleanliness issues. It could be about marketing. It could be about anything. So I think part of the issue is it's one standout issue to report on, which is really just about the bids activities in this area. It's not even about the neighborhood's public safety related issues, which is, if you read this, if it's a police matter, it's not something that's being required to be brought to the board. It's only if it's in the bid activities area, which let's hope that the bid public safety team is really more of ambassadors than they are crime fighters. Let's hope that that's not the issue that they need to become. I know in my case that's more that there's certainly there's support, and there are absolutely times where the bid public safety staff is involved in something that rises to the level of criminality, not in their own actions, but in terms of what happens in the public realm. But so I think what we don't know, which is because it's at this point in the process, is and maybe the people who are here from the bid who are listening to this and hearing what this recommendation is from the borough president, which I'm sure they respect wholeheartedly as we do, that there should be some obviously reporting of management on a variety of issues that would be important to all of the stakeholders, including the community board. So I think, you know, I agree with Commissioner Ortiz that this is an interesting one because it's very limited in scope, and it's also reporting only on the activities to an entity that is on the board who would be aware of what's happening already. And obviously, if there were issues, then they would have to be brought to a different level. But it's very possible this might be a natural reporting mechanism for the organization if they're going to report these kinds of things in all of their categories of funding and priority. So, well, I guess time will tell, you know, once we see how the organization puts itself together, you know, through the whatever comes next after us and the council.
I think what you're hearing, and there's a significant degree of experience with bids on this commission, as you know, is a degree of sensitivity about overlaying on what has been a highly successful relationship almost universally, if not universally, between business improvement districts and organizations and their local community boards, an additional administrative level and set of requirements that could calcify what in general has been an extraordinarily close and productive working relationship between bids and community boards throughout the city. All right? Ms. Ortiz.
On another issue?
Go ahead.
Just two quick questions. One, you know, I noted that there's a request that the Fulton Houses development should be guaranteed representation as a voting membership class. Why would you treat some residents differently and afford them more opportunities to participate than others? I'm not sure I understand that. And then, you know, there's some requests that the bid avoid commercial events in public plazas and prohibit advocacy on behalf of individual property owners before government agencies. I'm not sure I understand why you would want to hamstring bid activities in that way. So the two questions about, you know, the residential representation.
Can you read the last items?
Those are community board too.
Oh, my apologies. So actually, so we'll leave it to the Fulton Houses. Sorry.
So the Fulton Houses represents a number of residents that has an organized residential structure and a number of residents within the bid boundaries. To the borough president in our office, it makes a great deal of sense to include that already organized representation into the bids organized structure. And the reason being is that there's a great deal of potential that a bid would bring to the area that falls within its catchment area that includes the Fulton houses. And the other is when we're talking about some of the other bid actions that are happening within the district, including security, that there has to be additional accountability. We keep coming back to accountability, but the Fulton houses is a large community within the catchment area and the impact area, and that should be shown in the organized structure of the bid.
Any other questions for Mr. Reynolds? Thank you.
Thank you.
Chris Goddard from the Department of Small Business Services.
Good morning, Chair Weisbach, Commissioners. My name is Chris Goddard, Executive Director of the Bid Program and Development at SBS. We oversee the process, and I'm happy to answer any additional questions or clarify one, I think, earlier that Commissioner
Efron.
In regards to notification, we ensure that the steering committee notify all tenants and residents and property owners of the process going on, including a statement of support that goes to everyone in which they can indicate their support or opposition. So every tenant was notified and will again be notified of a hearing at City Council.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Goddard? Ms. Deluz.
Hi, Mr. Goddard. Thanks for being here. I'm just wondering if you can comment yet on kind of following up on some points that Commissioner Efron raised earlier about SBS's current thinking or future thinking about linking bid development, economic development with workforce development activities, broadly speaking, through the program citywide. Is that something that you all are thinking about?
I think, broadly speaking, I think it's something we encourage all the bids to participate in, to encourage, whether it's the bid itself or to promote workforce development within the community, whether that's WMBE hiring or other, local campaigns or facilitate those kind of things among small businesses.
And so outside of those things, is there anything on a programmatic level that you all are thinking of implementing besides the two pieces that you mentioned?
I can't speak specifically outside of the Neighborhood Development Division and my role in bid program oversight, but we can get something back to you on that specifically.
I think it would be also helpful if you could take the thrust of what Commissioner Deluz and Commissioner Efron were suggesting back to the Department of Small Business Services, and given the role that bids play, something certainly to consider.
Absolutely, will do.
Any other questions for Mr. Goddard? Ms. Efron.
Just want to make the point that there is an ongoing summer youth employment program that's continued in this mayoral administration, and seems, again, as an amateur on this, that might be a very positive place for bids to play a role in all bids, if not just this one.
Sure. Absolutely.
Any other questions for Mr. Goddard? Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who wishes to be heard on this matter? And if not, the hearing is closed.
Borough, excuse me, Borough of Manhattan, calendar number 16, CD 4, N150083, ZRM, a public hearing in the matter of an application for an amendment of the zoning resolution concerning the Hudson Yards Sliver text amendment.
The first speaker is David Solnick.
Because she sits, but she wasn't represented.
Good morning, Mr. Solnick.
Good morning. Just a bit of background. I'm the applicant on this project, and I'm an architect as well, an architect for clients as well as a small-scale developer. I've done that for many years in the Bay Area in California, and 4.5 years ago moved to New York, and I'm trying it out here. I'm very involved in community affairs there, and have jumped right in here. I'm a member of the Community Board 4, also a resident of Community Board 4, and also I was on the steering committee and now a board member of the Hudson Yards bid. So this was all actually the last item was very interesting for me to hear, wrestling with some of the issues that we have and are still wrestling with. The text amendment that's on the agenda here is, I just want to point out, I know you've already heard about it a couple days ago, I was here for that. It is not something that impacts the Sliver law directly, but only the code section that describes the application of the Sliver law to within a small sub-area of Hudson Yards. The sub-areas D4 and D5, which are here. The Sliver law was intended for zones that did not have underlying height and setback controls. It was, as you well know, the Hudson Yards rezoning in 2005 incorporated contextual zoning, which put height restrictions in place. Those were negotiated with Community Board 4. So the protections offered, the totally valid protections offered by the Sliver law are less important in a zone like that. One thing that's, I think, important with this text amendment, the Sliver law has an unintended consequence, which is that small properties can be more valuable to their neighbors than they are to the owner. It's a little bit like, with life insurance, you can be more valuable dead than alive. And the reason for that, of course, is that it applies only to narrow lots and not to wider ones, and so it has had the unintended consequence of incentivizing small landowners to sell to larger landowners into larger aggregates. Sometimes that's not a bad thing, but a mid-block on small streets, it's probably not a good thing as an incentive. And so the idea is that the Sliver law, with its perfectly appropriate protections, should only apply in areas where it actually is of positive value, so that we're not overdoing the negative implications. So not in situations where the underlying zoning limits the height and setbacks, as does this, and not in situations where the building would be no taller than one of its neighbors, since a Sliver really is a building that has air on either side of it. I think that's most people's understanding, that it's a freestanding building that's taller than those on both sides. Another critical protection that the Sliver law has in place and would still have in place here is that it prevents setbacks from the street wall. That's part of the Sliver law, is that the street wall has to remain contiguous with its neighbor, and that would still be the case. So, last sentence, I hope that this actually might be a test case for this kind of modification in other zones in the city. Happy to answer any questions, and also Nancy Doon of VHB, who wrote the EAS, is here as well.
Thank you very much. Questions for Mr. Solnick? Ms. Levin.
Yes, Mr. Solnick, thank you for coming. Thank you for your persistence through this process. I'm just kind of curious, as an applicant, how long it has been that you've been working on this application. We're relatively late in the process.
Right.
And then after that, I know it goes beyond the scope of this particular application, but what your plans are for the property.
It's been about a year, I believe, as far as the timing goes. Yes, persistence is the right word. And, it's also for this kind of small development, it's not so common, I think, for small developments like this to go through the whole text amendment process, which is very expensive. But, I didn't write the rules, I just have to follow them. And then the plan is, you can see there, what the massing difference would look like. And, the plan is to do a community facility on the ground floor, and the rest would be residential.
Mm-hmm.
Haven't decided whether it would be rental or ownership residential, but that.
Because they're relatively, being only 25 feet wide, they're going to be sort of long and skinny units, right? So maybe 1 unit per floor, or?
Yes, 1 unit. Most of them would be 1 unit per floor. A couple of them might be duplexes.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good. Well, thank you for coming, and good luck.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Mr. Solnick? Ms. Ortiz.
Hi, good morning.
Morning.
Quick question. So what would then prevent the next building down from you then from doing the same and affecting sort of a domino effect of, tall buildings across? And curious what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, no, that's a good question, and it's something that was very much thought about in the looking at the other sites that could be impacted on this one. The site next door to this is a low-income co-op, which actually owns owns two 25-foot wide sites. And so for several reasons, it could not, the domino effect cannot continue. Number one, it's already effectively a 50-foot wide lot, so the sliver law wouldn't apply to them anyway. So my lot, a taller building on my lot doesn't trigger anything for them. Number two, they have deed restrictions that prevent them from doing that anyway, because of the nature of the project. And actually, that continues. The next one over is also 50-foot wide, so there's no possibility of a domino effect here.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Solnick? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Michael Sandler from the Borough President's Office.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Michael Sandler, and I'm here on behalf of Manhattan Borough President Gail Brewer to testify in favor of the proposed text amendment. The development site was rezoned to an R8A contextual district in 2005 as part of the Hudson Yards rezoning. But unlike other contextual rezonings where contextual districts are placed to maintain a certain built character, this R8A district was mapped to create a new medium-density residential district where one previously did not exist. Absent the proposed actions, any building on this site would be limited to 60 feet in height, while a taller 120-foot building would be in keeping with the scale of the block and the goals of the Hudson Yards rezoning. The proposal to allow a sliver building to rise to the height of the taller of its two neighbors is currently allowed on wide streets in subareas D4 and D5 and on all streets in other subareas and subdistricts within Hudson Yards. To apply that same ability to for sliver sites in these subareas is thus perfectly appropriate. This application does raise the question of whether this same type of exception should be available in other special districts where neighborhood-specific height and bulk controls may be more appropriate than the blanket provisions of the sliver law. While the proposed zoning text amendment is appropriate for this site, a more general action applying to all sliver sites in contextual zones within special districts may have been a more appropriate action. If in the future a similar action is proposed to provide relief, the Borough President would like to encourage the Commission to consider a wider study to avoid the necessity of such specific amendments to the zoning resolution that affect only one site, only one very small site. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Questions for Mr. Sandler?
Great.
Thank you. And as Mr. Solnick mentioned, we do have someone from VHB here to answer questions if there are any questions, but I don't have a sense from my colleague that there are any questions. And so is there anyone else who wishes to be heard on this matter? And if not, the hearing is closed. Madam Secretary, do we have any other matters to come before us?
No, Chairman White.
Then I call this hearing closed, and I wish everyone a very, very happy holiday season.
Yes.
And a very happy New Year, and we'll see you all in 2015. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Happy holiday. Happy holiday.